Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to this episode of The Couch Trip. I am Bill Courtright with our host, Eddie Reece. We will be talking all things mental health, counseling, and therapy with one of the best and brightest that I know on the planet today. So appreciate your time. If you find this content valuable, please don't keep us a secret. Make sure that you subscribe, hit the notifications icon, and we'll let you know every time we have an episode to view or consume. So thank you very much. Today's episode is one that I've been looking forward to for quite some time. It is relevant. It is timely, at times maybe even a little disturbing, but hopefully it will be enlightening after we get to hear the knowledge, experience, and wisdom from one Mr. Eddie Reece. So today's topic, ladies and gentlemen, is division, specifically the divide that exists in our nation today. So we're going to get into this right away. My first question for Mr. Reece, my friend Eddie, is as follows. There is a famous Lincoln quote, "A house divided against itself cannot stand." What does that mean?
Well, I think you can just take the literal meaning of it. If you're infighting, and I would think, because I'm a stickler about kind of like you are, definitions. What is divided? Because what family isn't divided? So you can disagree. You can have very differing views, but I think in Lincoln's quote, divided means to the point to where I have no interest in hearing anything you have to say. You are the enemy. And I think that's when you get to that point, that you don't want any information that you're going to disagree with, and you're going to fight at every opportunity about it. At that point, that's when it's not going to stand.
What is it exactly that divides us?
Fear. And again, we'll go back to what we talked about in another episode about anxiety. Anxiety, I talk about as a threat. So you feel threatened, and when you feel threatened, and you feel threatened enough, your brain, your nervous system narrows everything down to four choices: fight, flight, flock, or freeze. And in order to get just those four choices, it has to, in a way, shut your frontal lobe down to where you can't think logically, rationally. You're not going to listen to another point of view. This has become a matter of life and death. And so that's why we react with the reactions that we have. And so we're divided because we feel threatened. And the more threatened someone feels, the further to an extreme they're going to go. And if you're down to one of these four choices, I have to fight for my country, or I have to move to another country. So fight or flight. At that point, you're going to be divided. And so at the heart of all divisions like that is a sense of threat. I believe what the other, and you're going to split it always into an other. So the other side, the enemy, I believe what they're doing, what they believe, the way they want to do things is going to threaten my existence. And that can be described as my country. They're going to take my country away. They want this kind of a country. They want to destroy this. They want to create this. They want us to all live this way. I'm going to see that as a threat to my existence of how I want to live in my country.
Hmm. I think you bring up the key word right there, which is that threat. That, in my opinion, that perception of, taking something, whether it's my peace, my freedom, my stability, my understanding, my perception of what is. I think I definitely feel like people, specifically those that are, averse to change or cooperation or collaboration, I think they
Right.
tend to, glom on to what they believe they know, and I think therein lies, some issue. Eddie, what do you think is going on right now as we record this? This is January 2023. And, in your opinion, why are we so divided now? What's going on right now that makes that threat, that perception of difference, that inability to collaborate, cooperate, or listen to an opposing view? What's going on right now that is perpetuating this division?
Media fuels the fear. Before social media, before the internet, okay, if you want to go back to the ancient times of one telephone in a household with a short cord, we didn't have enough information coming in that was fear-based. Eric Sebright, a journalist from a while back, had the quote, and I've got it somewhere, so I don't know if I can say it exactly as he said it, but the product of this nation, I would say the product of our culture, is anxiety. If I can produce enough anxiety in somebody, I can get them to buy what I want them to buy, because I'm going to offer the solution to that anxiety right on top of the anxiety. Right? So there wasn't the outlet to sell so much anxiety like there is now. And there wasn't the outlet for people, just run-of-the-mill people, to get the word out. So the word, the information, the news came from 3 networks on TV. And that's all there was. And before that, they came from your local newspapers. And the people that were on the extremes lived word of mouth. And so there weren't as many of them, right? Until some group came along that could talk up enough fear to get the masses to take the torches out and to run out into the street and go and, attack somebody, to lynch somebody, to go and assassinate somebody. So it's always been here. This is nothing new. This is human behavior. Mm-hmm. This is animal behavior, and we're all animals. So it's just a matter of it can be amplified now in a way that it's never been amplified before.
Yeah. I mean, we can definitely agree that the consumerization or commercialization of information in major media outlets certainly contributes to the "if it bleeds, it leads" type phenomenon, or getting people back to the screens and getting people back to the applications on their phone or their social channels or wherever they are. And we could wax poetic for hours about the algorithmic detail that actually perpetuates this behavior. And maybe that's a subject for another episode. But the fact of the matter is, it's a business, and these media outlets, they want to elicit a response, and the more emotional, the better. And I'm sure you can speak to kind of what's with the psychosis behind that, the chemicals that are being produced and running through our brains and bodies when we get excited. I think that's all fairly fascinating, but it really kind of, in my mind, begs another question, which is, there seems to be a segmentation, at least on the media side, and there seems to be somewhat of like a tribal type of, I won't even use the word community because it's just, that's too nice a word. But there's definitely this tribalism going on, this group think, this almost gang mentality, and it seems to be prevalent, and it's something that gives me anxiety, Eddie. I can't stand it. But can you speak to, what is going on where people are attracted to kind of what they think or what they expect, or maybe the search for information that validates a previous opinion, which causes that groupthink or that tribal mentality? What the heck's going on there?
Well, to go back to where you started with this, you take the consumerism and the desire to sell a product. Okay. Radio, TV has always lived by that. So they want to sell a product, and the product that they sold in the beginning of TV, I don't know that much about radio, but in the beginning of radio, but I'm sure it was pretty much the same from what I've seen and heard, is they want to sell you soap, that's how they got people to support the TV station. That's how the TV station made money. So that hasn't changed. What is different is there was enough new outlets coming up. Okay. Think of UHF TV stations. Okay. Now there's more than 3 networks. Okay. And they learned they could put on a half hour, an hour long infomercial and make way more money than producing a TV show. Okay. So that's what they did. And people went and, bought Pocket Fisherman. Okay. So you could follow just step by step how someone figured out a new way to create anxiety and sell a product. And as each one of these things showed up, you branch off into something that's slightly off of Main Street, and then slightly further off Main Street until you have enough outlets that there are enough different people who have always been that far off Main Street who said, I can actually sell this. Because it's always sold to a small number. Mm. And if what you're selling is fear, that's going to sell very quickly.
Yeah. No, it's evident. It's true. I guess there's the phenomenon of safety in numbers, and people just want to be around people that they feel they're like or like them. But
remember, fight, flight, flock, or freeze. So I feel threatened, I'm going to flock. I'm going to get with the other part of your question. I'm going to find a tribe so that I can feel safer. And if that tribe feels threatened enough, they will eventually move to fight. And so then you have gang members, you have, the militia people, you have all these different factions of people who are scared of their particular thing. They feel threatened by that, and they have their way of handling that. So they may feel threatened enough to launch something legally and go through the court systems to fight the threat and get rid of it. they may feel threatened enough and think in such a way that their tribe goes and buys guns and
Mhm.
piles up the guns and ammunition.
Let's go there for a
All the
second.
same thing, that this tribe is going to use the court system, this tribe is going to use guns. They're exactly the same. I have to do something. I have to reduce the threat in my nervous system. And this is how I'm going to choose to do it.
This is important, and I want to expand a little bit on this in a different, maybe slightly different context, which is you're speaking a little bit to consequence, you're speaking a little bit to reason or possibility. But my next question is, if we continue along these paths, if we continue down this road, what risks are we exposing ourselves to? What risks do we face if unaddressed?
Death.
Oh, geez.
I saw a documentary that was talking about the historical context of what's going on politically. And so it's all these historians, and they're talking about, what's happening now is pretty much the same as what happened under Hitler, under Mussolini, under Attila the Hun. I mean, they could go all the way back through human history and say same thing that went on here. And then this one historian came on and said, I go back to the chimpanzees. And as soon as he said that, I went, bingo, here we go. Okay. And he said, remember Jane Goodall? Remember she lived with the family of chimps, and the family was all very cooperative and they all took care of each other. He said, that's what we saw. What we didn't see is quite a while after she left that family group did what every family group has always done. It got too big. And it wasn't going to be able to work with one alpha. Okay? And it's not that the chimps have this figured out. This is basic animal behavior. So what happens, instead of an alpha wannabe comes up and dethrones the alpha, and now he's the alpha of the whole group, what happens is an alpha wannabe comes up and starts turning toward the other alpha wannabes and starts slapping them around, mistreating them, and getting them to do what he wants them to do and to look at him as an alpha. Right? At the same time, he starts to go and sort of pick at the alpha. And once he has his minions in line, he goes and attacks the alpha. They follow, they kill and they eat the alpha. Now, he doesn't become the alpha of the group because the alpha had all of these people outside of his minions and the followers of the minions, because they turn around and do the same thing down the line. Okay? So it splits into two groups. They are now a house divided, and it won't stand. And two alphas come up, and the groups are now at eternal war.
It's fascinating. It is
That's
absolutely
where we're headed, Billy. That's what scares me. Okay.
we might be there. I mean,
We are, in that there's been enough violence in our history, and that that violence is ramping up. Not that there's an overall more violent society. Overall, we are the most peaceful society in human history. Okay? And I think we will continue to be and grow in that direction. But the extremes who feel the most threatened and are going to choose fight over flock with the larger herd, not with a tribe. Okay, imagine a Philadelphia Eagles fan and a New York Giants fan being great buddies and loving to go to the game together. Okay, that's what has to happen, and they still yell and scream for their team as vehemently as they can. But they slap each other on the back after the game and go, "That was a great game. Yeah, too bad you lost, loser." But yeah, well, that's because you cheated. Okay. And they can do that, and they're best buds. Right? That's what has to happen. The way that I think it was Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan had a drink at 5 o'clock every day. That was quite a session today. That doesn't happen anymore.
No. And you know what? We're aging ourselves, both with the corded telephone analogy and now Tip and Ronnie. But in my opinion, that was a golden age of political theater. And for those that don't know, Ronald Reagan, who today would be called a rhino, likely, was a Republican president who supplanted Jimmy Carter, and Tip O'Neill was the Democratic Speaker of the House, and they enjoyed each other. And I think if Tip was honest with himself, he would tell you that he had a bromance with Ronald Reagan. He liked Ronald Reagan. He liked who he was, and I think a lot of men at that time liked who Ronald Reagan was. The entertainer, the performer, the handsome man, debonair, classy, yet stern, strong, and assertive in a way that he was successful in getting things done. But I don't think we'll ever see a day where people will cross the aisle socially at 5 o'clock, as you mentioned, over a glass of wine, beer, scotch, or whatever. Boy, would it be great.
It's going to take something that is truly unprecedented to happen. Because, again, this is what scares me, is we are following the path of animal behavior. The family group is way too large. We've factioned off over history, and we're doing that in a way, not only in this country, but in a lot of other countries, in a way to where the end result is going to be a violence that is going to be incredibly destructive. And the scariest thing, I'll preface this by saying, as a therapist, my goal is to help people live in reality as best I can, right? Because good mental and emotional health is reality at all costs. And I think the reality of the situation that makes this different from every other time this has happened in history, is the fact that people in charge of a tribe have nuclear weapons. And that's the difference.
Okay. Well, I'm an optimist. I think you know that. And I'm hopeful, and I'm selfish. So I want to go to our final question, which is, from a place of self-interest, admittedly, what can we do? What can we do about this?
Well, what we have to do is push ourselves. If we're out here, okay, or figure out where you are, okay, and if you are really fired up about, say, the divide in politics, okay, to the point to where you see the other as an enemy they need to be off the face of the earth, or they need to all be voted out. Um, that's really the same sort of thing. That's an indication that you've got to do some self-exploration and then get some help to be able to sit down with the other side and find enough common ground. Okay. You don't have to agree on anything. You don't have to change your mind about any of your stances, but to go find enough common ground to help turn the other into a human being, which you are, and to go out and wish for the destruction of the other is to wish for your own destruction, because that's the only place it can lead to. And whether that destruction be a physical destruction or a political, legal destruction, it's the same thing. We're going to push the extremes further out, and we're going to push more and more people toward those extremes.
Right.
And it takes the people on the very edges of it, along with the people along the way who are just far enough over to not say to the extremes, this has to stop. I'm going to do it differently.
Yeah, and it's my belief, and I think you'd agree, that as individuals, as a nation, as a people, we're far more alike than we are different, and we have so many more common goals and so many more common aspirations. And whether we could talk about Maslow next episode, but when you look at really what we're looking for as people, and what as men, and as women, whether you're a protector, provider, collaborator, enabler, I think we all want some level of peace. And you made me think of something I say to my wife, which is I make the conscious decision many times to be happy rather than right. And being right is not always important to me, because out of respect and appreciation for the sanctity of marriage in my house, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. And I would very much like to concede where I can to protect that peace in my house, because she is incredibly important. And I would defer to her in a lot of things as it relates to the important parts of raising our children and keeping our home. And some of the things that we disagree with just aren't that important.
Well, I would tweak that a little bit by saying they are important. They're actually vital, the things that we disagree on in certain circumstances. But we can't let the disagreement be a fight. To your point about being right, there's an old story of the newbie counselor sitting in with the expert, the older mentor, on a counseling session with a couple, and it's their first session. So the therapist starts out with, well, tell me your side of the story, and then, now tell me your side of the story. And when they both finished, he goes, well, looks to one of the people and goes, you're right. You're absolutely right. Looks to the other one and goes, and you're absolutely right. And then the newbie goes, but you just told them they're both right. He goes, and you're absolutely right.
Yeah, message received.
When we can understand and implement that, we'll be okay.
Yeah.
But it's going to take a lot of people, and it's going to take, really, I think what it takes is for the people closer in to get motivated enough, which means they're going to have to feel threatened enough, right? to actually do something. Because I think if you actually poll people in a way to get an accurate count, it really is a bell-shaped curve. The people on the extreme are the very small percentage of people. And the people in the middle are the big bump in the middle. So there are more people that go, this is all crap. I'm not listening to that. I'm not participating in that, because those people have jobs. Okay, they have to go to work. They have to raise their children. They have to try to learn to get along in the world and better themselves. They don't have time for this madness. And it's those people that are going to have to somehow, I think, in a way, turn over here and figure out a way to say, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a path to where I want to hear and listen and work out something for all of us that will work.
Well, Eddie, thank you. What I heard you say and what I'll end with is, yes, we as a nation, we as a people certainly are divided, but we also have a decision or a choice, which is, do we choose to participate?
That's
And
it. And participate in a way that brings consensus, not compromise.
yes,
And that we can talk about that in a whole nother episode. The difference. I tell my couples, let's not work out a compromise here. That won't work. I don't know of a compromise, if you're really divided, that would make both of you happy. Right? But a consensus says, that's better than if I'd gotten my way.
Mhm.
And when both people can get there, and there's ways to get there, on any one of these subjects, I guarantee you there is, then we're going to be fine. But this stuff on the extremes has got to somehow come to an end if we're going
Yes,
to survive as a species. I really think it's that important.
I agree. And another thing that has to come to an end is our episode this week.
Oh,
Uh,
don't.
Ladies and gentlemen, my friend Eddie and I thoroughly enjoy sharing whatever information, inspiration, or influence we can in and around the subject of mental health, the world we live, how we cope, how we react, how we share. And I think today's episode really double underlined a lot of really important things for us to consider and hopefully grow in learning. So again, if you found this content valuable, please don't keep us a secret. Share with us your comments. If you have any questions, maybe we address something that struck a nerve and you'd like us to go in depth in a future episode, please let us know that in the comments. Please subscribe to our channel, click the bell notification so you know exactly when we publish a new episode. I'm Bill Courtright on behalf of my friend Eddie Reece. This has been another episode of the Couch Trip. We look so forward to sharing with you again soon. Take care.
Thanks.